Before we get into the album, I want to step back slightly because I guess the last things we'd heard from you guys before that were the two standalone things, Level of Concern, and then the Christmas track as well. And I guess on the surface, they're more standalone, not necessarily tied within the narrative. I say on the surface, at least, not necessarily tied into the grander narrative, what you guys have been doing. I wonder what it was like getting to flex a slightly different creative muscle there before you were going into the record as a whole, and how working on those tracks, I suppose, affected what we hear now on Scaled and Icy.
Yeah, I know for me, it was really a moment for me to grow as a producer, really understanding the art of producing. It's a very different thing than writing and performing. And so there's definitely a sense I've recently come into a new sense of confidence in the production aspect, but also very aware of the limitations. I mean, there's only so much bandwidth, and for me to, I can write a song a day, but to record a song, it takes weeks to do one. And so the question is whether or not that's the best use of the time. But those songs specifically are ones where I know for me, I was just trying to, I don't know, stretch out, spread my wings as a producer.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And then, we mentioned, of course, work as a producer and working in your studio in that way. When it came to the record itself, I know you've already talked a little bit about this in a lot of places about that idea of working remotely. It's something I've talked to loads and loads of bands about this year. How did you guys find you settled into a rhythm with it? I mean, I guess, Tyler, you've already worked in that studio before, Josh being in a different place at the same time. How did it kind of fit together, and when did it click for you in terms of that process?
I think it started, it started with Level of Concern. It was kind of just shortly after, it was really, really right when the pandemic happened. And so everyone was kind of trying to figure out what was going to happen with the shows that were on the books. I think maybe those got canceled by that time. But when we were kind of starting to talk about what to do in the meantime, and kind of writing and recording a new album, obviously the conversation of logistics and how to do that was a big one. I think with travel pretty not possible, and then also just interacting with other people, in a studio or whatever. And so for me, this was the first time really recording anything from home. Obviously Tyler's had his home studio for a while, and so we tried it out with Level of Concern, and it was really cool. I think just being able to utilize the technology that we have with FaceTime and Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was before pandemic, and now it's kind of the standard way of communication with people. So utilizing that, and then just technology to be able to sort of hear recordings in real time was something that we used. And I don't know. I think we've always really liked technology and seeing where that goes and how it can just be, how we can benefit from it. And so when we were kind of, we were looking into ways to work remotely and kind of figuring out what that technology could do for us, it was actually kind of fun to see what the possibilities were.